Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Snarf number 3, continuing our look at this fine underground anthology. And what a weird way to start it off. Something you'd never think you'd see in an underground comics cover. Will Eisner draws this cover, and it even features the Spirit and Commissioner Dolan. And we see them entering into the premises of Krupp Comics Works, the home office of Kitchen Sink Enterprises. And this is like old man Eisner, who's already in his middle ages then, kind of giving his old man commentary on the hippies and the underground comics movement. It's kind of like a get off my lawn type attitude. Just pretty disparaging critique of these hippie cartoonists. I don't know why, but this woman has the top of her head lopped off. It almost works though as a caricature. You're like, oh yeah, that's a hot hippie chick. But then you're like, wait, her head ends right where her eyes would be. But pretty fun stuff. I like that guy's face there. This is a kind of scathing, a scathing indictment of the youth culture from an old man. Here we have another Snarf lineup. I love these things. Just give us a little info about each of the artists. And we start off with Bucky Wright, Boy Radical. This is written by Ed Goodman and drawn by Pete Poplaski. And I really like this story. This is also kind of satire of the hippie movement, but more so of the people who would seek to exploit it. And so Bucky Wright is this total Richie Rich kid, silver spoon in mouth, country club membership. But one day he decides he wants to become a radical. I guess he's been reading all those Life magazine articles about the hippies and he wants in. And so he goes up to his bedroom, which has like a football poster. I like this little Spider-Man poster, seeing Pete Poplaski sneak Spider-Man into an underground comic. And then he totally tricks out his room, puts up new posters of Che Guevara, Bob Dylan, and black light posters. And he puts a bong in his room. And he grows his hair out. Or I think it's just a wig. And then somebody knocks on the door for him. They say, Bucky, someone's here for you. So he's like, there's this whole like kind of pantomime of him trying to find the most radical pants he could wear. His pants have to look radical and he can't find anything. So eventually he finds something. It turns out that it's his friend Max Cohen, who is also another Richie Rich kid who wants to be a hippie. As you can see, once again, Pete Poplaski. I wish that guy did more. He's such a good cartoonist. It just looks really good to me. He's very deft. So they go to this meeting place, a secret meeting place. And there's this guy there like, oh, so you want membership in our elite group? And they're like, right on, man. Yeah, quote unquote, brother. And then he says, then please fill these out. And we see this conclave of all these hippies here. And basically the questionnaire says like parents' assets, parent stock options, personal income, personal assets. So we find out what this is. They accept them because they're rich enough, I guess. It's the gathering of rich revolutionaries. And I guess to finalize the deal, to make them full members, they have to do something radical. Just then, their leader, Pierce Autenberry IV, shows up in his limo with a driver, but he's a total hippie guy, or at least in the fashion sense of the word. So now the meeting can really come to order. And yeah, they have to perform some revolutionary act. I love, it's interesting the way he draws his hair there. Everything else is kind of realistic. That's very abstract. So they leave the meeting, and they're thinking about what they can do to do a revolutionary act. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want to do anything too revolutionary. So then they see the office front of the Nonviolence League. Turn the other cheek is their motto. And he says, hey, let's throw a brick through their window. They're pacifists. So it's not like they can, get us back. They can't do anything. So they throw a brick. They both throw bricks in the window and taunt them. And then all of a sudden, we see this fist smash his face. And all these guys come out and just beat the shit out of them. And they're like, that ought to teach you to throw bricks. And then they leave them bleeding and broken. And Bucky says, liars. Because they're not pacifists. I really like this strip. That is interesting, though. His friend Max always does have this crazy hair. Though everything else is kind of drawn realistically. God, this stuff is great. I really like Poplaski. Next, we have a dead letter. And I forgot this guy's name. Oh, Peter Loft. He has a very nice cartooning style. Like, this guy could have had his own Sunday comic strip, right next to Shoe by Jeff McNally or something. And this is a dead letter is the name of this postal carrier bird. And this is just a little gag strip. It's not that great. But I really like his drawing, his cartooning. He's a real pro. Next, we have Secret Files of the Omnipotent Dwarf by Tom Christopher. These are pretty weird. This Tom Christopher guy's an oddball. And so the Omnipotent Dwarf is this little character. And he is just what the title says. Before we continue, I was reading on the Comics Joint underground site. Tom Christopher actually inked some early issues of Silver Surfer over John Buscema. That was interesting. I was like, really? That's crazy. So he goes into a butcher shop. I'll just call him the dwarf. And the butcher's giving him some grief. So he uses his omnipotence, and he basically fries his brain. So he's just kind of like a zombie. And he commands him to go into the back room. Then he kind of acts like he's the proprietor of the shop. An old lady comes in, and he's just being really mean to her. He's like, what do you want, you old fart? And he decides to play a trick on her. She says she's here to pick up her order. And he wraps up the butcher, the whole body. And she asks how much it is. And he says, nothing, we're giving them away free to ugly women. Now get your ass out. So this woman's walking down the street with this cart, carrying this, the butcher's body. And all of a sudden, these guys jostle her. She falls into a cop, and the butcher's body spills out onto the street. And everyone's like, oh, dead man. The cop pulls his gun. Don't move, you fiend. And she reaches to get her glasses. And he's like, she's got a gun. And he shoots her dead. And I like how the cop says, and to think them liberals think they don't need us cops to protect them in situations like that. And then we see the dwarf, and almost like the crypt keeper, as if he's narrating the story. In fact, there's a skeleton on the wall and a skull candlestick. And he basically, the moral of the story is that injustice always happens. He says the old bitch was killed, the butcher woke up in an hour only to find a store robbed, and I got away scot-free. Ha ha ha. See you later, kids. Very odd story. And kind of just weird, interesting cartooning, too. I kind of like it. I like almost these more simple cartoons than the more detailed. Next, we have another Everett Geradts strip, the great Dutch cartoonist. And to be honest, I'm not sure. Johnny Pale Ears? It's such an interesting logo, I can't quite read it. I think it is Johnny Pale Ears. Really nice logo. Johnny Pale Ears has his lucky day. It's a pretty dumb gag strip. Kind of funny in a stupid way, though. Johnny finds a $10 bill on the ground. He gets hit by a brick out of the sky. I love this when he gets hit by a brick. His shoes come off of his socks, which come off of his foot. His belly button pokes out. His nipples protrude. His bulge protrudes. It's just like pure Tex Avery shit going on there. So he wakes up. The brick conked him off for a little. And he's like, my money's gone. And then his old chemistry teacher from school comes up. And he says, that money, you won't need it anymore. And, but how is it possible? You died before our very eyes. And he says, you're dead. And the science teacher says, and so are you. So it's almost like a mini bad Twilight Zone episode, where, all those stories where it's like, you're actually dead and you're a ghost. Now we have 3 little strips from written by Ed Goodman and drawn by Dennis Kitchen, which is always a treat. Ramshackle and Slumlord Realty. And this is about these 2 really shitty real estate agents, and it's just a bunch of gag strips about how terrible they are. It's a very kind of old-timey humor. We see them in this one. They're getting in a huge argument. Well, they get to an actual knife fight over who gets to collect rent today. One of them finally says, we'll both go. And it turns out because it's a whorehouse where they are collecting rent. Now we have another Everett Geradts strip, Ma Cow. We just saw her last issue. And it's a pretty funny one. So, Pa Cow one night gets up the nerve to ask his wife. He says, there's been something, after 20 years of marriage, there's something I've been wanting to try. I'd like to fuck you in the ass. And Ma Cow's shocked. She's like, how can I ever respect you again? And he's like, skip the dramatics. I'm going to bed. So this is obviously causing some consternation. The next morning, Pa Cow is out with his buddy and Pedro, and he's kind of asking him about talking about anal sex with him, and he lies and says like, I just had it with my wife. I guess they were talking about it before. And Pedro's like, I told you, it's so great. Nothing beats the cunt like the ass does. And he says, my wife is crazy about it. And Pa Cow thinks, wow, that Pedro sure knows how to handle the dames. And then we see Ma Cow talking to Pedro's wife. And he says, my crazy husband asked me the same thing. You know what I did? And she whispers in his ear. And Ma Cow thinks, that Juanita sure knows how to handle the guys. So the next day in the bedroom, Ma Cow shows up with a strap on. And she says, okay, big boy, you can fuck my ass if I can fuck your ass first. And of course, the husband is completely like, of all the dirty things, disgusting. I love this strip. And of course, I love his cartooning. So, it's some great animated cartoon that you never saw. Next, we have another Peter Loft strip of Dead Letter. Dead Letter Delivers. And, this is whatever it is. But, great cartooning once again. Very, amazing, funny animal cartooning. Basically, he's got to deliver a baby for his stork friend. His stork friend's got a date. Brother Storkley. He says, could you deliver this kid for me? And he goes on this little adventure trying to deliver the kid. First, he's got to find the parents. He doesn't even know who they are. But this is just almost flawless. Just great, funny animal cartooning. and things don't end up well. I'm not going to get too much into it. It's a goofy gag comic. Next, we have Tom Christopher again with Lenny and Phil, the lovable loonies. So we see these two guys, Lenny and Phil. They're on their way to do a kind of a construction worker job, painting job. And this looks very different. Well, not that different, but different, using different styles than that first strip we just saw. Kind of like it. So I guess this house they're going to work on, it's owned by a very rich lady. And we meet her, Mrs. Vanderswine. And even though she looks like this, they're all just like, hubba hubba. And they're all in love with her. She looks very much like she was drawn by Art Crumb, from the neck up for sure. So they're all swooning over her. They start working, and Phil says, man, any man who gets to marry that woman is set. You never have to work again, because she's rich, and, well, he thinks she's hot. I've got away with the ladies. I'm going to make a move. So he goes up to her private room and says, hey, I just wanted to talk for a second. It's like, we could make beautiful music together. And he kind of jumps on her and starts pawing her. And she beats the crap out of him. And then she says, now to take care of his ugly friend. And we see a hazy image of Mrs. Vanderswine. And we see Lenny and Phil just like, good Lord. And we continue to chapter 2, in the clutches of Amun-Ra, dog blood drinking cult. So she's a priestess, I guess, for the cult of Amun-Ra. There's all these other cultists around her. And Lenny and Phil are tied up and chained up. And they're going to be sacrificed. What a crazy turn of events. But apparently they're waiting for their leader, and it's the omnipotent dwarf shows up from the previous strip. It's like how differently he's drawn here, like actually way better. I love that face there. That's great. That's really good cartoony. And but then he says, like, well, actually it's a certain holy day, the day of the locusts. So let's see what his name is. Oh, the sacred son of the serpent must be here. And the sacred son shows up, and it's Richard Nixon. So he'll be in charge of the sacrifice. And it looks like they're just about to kill him. And then Lenny just says, holy shit, in fear. And they all hear it and they say, holy shit, he knows the sacred incantation of Amun-Ra. This must surely be his avatar. And they all bow down to the ground. They free him, and they ask him, what do you want, O master? And he says, I'd like to have some nookie with Mrs. Vanderswine. And Phil is just left being all, some guy's got all the luck. Only in an underground comic you to read a comic like this. So nutty. We have more of these great newspaper strip parodies by Peter Poplaski and Dennis Kitchen. Here's Mary Worth. This one is so dumb, but I think it's hilarious. Just because I hated Mary Worth so much, is they're all talking, gossiping about someone, and then Mary Worth just farts, and there's just this embarrassed silence in the room. Freddie, apartment 3G. This is a pretty good Tumbleweeds impersonation by Kitchen here. I like this Nancy one. Sluggos says, how come hippies don't work? And this hippie says, because we like to be stoned every day. So they start throwing rocks at him. It's very dumb, but it's funny. And we have Rex Morgan MD, Priscilla's Pop, and Judge Parker, where Judge Parker's on the take with the mafia. Look at that great Marlon Brando caricature. Pretty well done. Man, that Poplaski, one talented motherfucker. And then we have a weird Tim Boxell back cover. Kind of a parody of a romance, an old 50s romance comic. True, he is a jock. He is a hot dog, but I love him. And I want him to be my foot-long hot dog. Even though he's drawing these like beautiful people, they're repulsive. There's just the way Tim Boxell draws. There's something almost like they're lizard people under their skin. Like there's something off about them. That's how I think is why Tim Boxell is such a twisted genius. The way he draws, it just seems demented. It seems perverse, even when he's not drawing anything perverse. Look at the teeth, how disturbing these perfect teeth are. They shouldn't be, they're just, but it's almost like, oh yeah, because they're lizard people. Or I don't know, they're some weird creatures, alien creatures. So there you go, guys. Snarf number 3, another fine issue. I'm looking forward to the next one and the next one after that. So I hope you guys are enjoying looking at these as much as I am enjoying reading them and showing them off. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.